Thank you. A very good morning, very good afternoon to each one of you. In Bangalore, 1 hour delay, I think we'll forgive everyone because of the weather, but we've come from Delhi, where we spend most of our time, spend some time in Bangalore as well. And the management team that has a booth just here doesn't really want to go back. I represent GreenHonchos. My name is Navin Joshua. I've been trying to do this for a decade now. Lots of failures. I actually want to cover the failures more than anything else. I think I don't have a fancy presentation. Didn't want one. It would steal the thunder from the other 2 or 3 sessions that GreenHonchos has over the next couple of days. But Amitabh told me something very interesting. Amitabh is the convener of Images. That Solox stands for stories, opinions, learnings, and outcomes. So that I'm just trying to be able to split probably the next 10 minutes into 2 minutes each. I will try and talk about my entrepreneurial journey. I know it may be slightly boring, but that is the format, and we are supposed to. I hate talking about myself, but I'm assuming it could be a bit of fun since it is filled with lots of trials. First generation entrepreneur. Service class background, last 40 years. Pardon me, I might be a little, for the first time in my life, I have stage fright. I am a natural when it comes because I love talking, and that's because my parents are here. The last time my parents were sitting like this was elocution contests. So, in school, we were in a convent school. It was tough, I used to get, these days those don't happen to kids, but we used to get whacked. My parents are international athletes. My mom's an Arjuna awardee. So she's here. But I also wanted to be a sportsman. I'll just go into 2 minutes of my journey. But as they say in life, talent skips a generation. In my case, I think talent will skip 2 generations. But there is a lot of love for sport, and this is a great time in the country. A lot of good sports enthusiasts. Cricket's what it is, but I think football is even better at this point. The quality of games are great. The matches are fairly level and equal. I will come back to the point. There is something to tie this story in. I was at St. Stephen's College in Delhi. Didn't know what I was doing. This was about 2 decades back, over 20 years back. Got picked up on campus, went to the US. Spent a year, still couldn't figure it out. Came back and realized that have to do something, have to earn our own money. I liked what I was doing. I wanted to do sports journalism because I wasn't good enough a sportsman. Couldn't do that as well. Came back from G and spent the next 10 years in a fairly fabulous environment. It was a company that was finally acquired by Tech Mahindra in about 2011. And I was on the board of that company, made some money when that exited, but realized that they didn't want the management. But in that last stint, we worked with some that generation of e-retail companies. Companies like Rediff, Naptol, Star, CJ. I don't know if a lot of the kids were even born at that time or even thought that footwear or apparel or something like that could even be purchased online. And today, even my parents would only purchase online because they need selection. They want to go color, size, price, and then find a huge selection. You don't get that in a store. We kind of figured it out at that time. This is the story part of it. I will come to the opinion part of it next, which is I've only got 6.5 minutes left. But in opinion, what I want to say is that we always, GreenHonchos is also a strange name. Every time anyone asks me why GreenHonchos, the story is always different. We wanted to be an e-retail consulting company, but consulting without implementation didn't make any sense at that point. In fact, the D2C enabler term was something that now everyone uses. In its true business sense, we were committed to that. But in 2013, 14, 15, 16, there were no takers for that. But there were a couple of brands. And by God's grace, it's been 7 years and we still work with those brands. One was Liberty Shoes and the other is TCNS Clothing. So Anupam, Saurabh, all these guys were great backers of the concept. And 7 years in, both are public companies. We are glad to be part of those journeys, but they were the ones that gave us uh, the confidence that the proof of concept and the model was there. Uh, Another key learning, when I moved to the L part of Solo, was our advice would still be to build something that you can scale profitably. D2C, which is the area that we are around and what most of the summit is around in terms of the internet, is not a small game. It is a game of at least minimum scale. The unit economics just don't work out when it's too small. It ends up being a hobby. But also, there is so much of FOMO around starting off D2C and saying, okay, entrepreneur. We actually, and the poster boys are only 5% of it that are actually talked about. We actually work more with a balanced 95%. It's their sweat, blood, and toil. All this, I heard one of the other speakers talking about new customer acquisition and the burn. The FOMO really makes you burn more and more. Get the unit economics right is our learning that we feel, because at the end of the day, the optics of the overall system, it could be the funding market, it could be the hiring market, the attrition market, as we call it, they all desert you every 2 or 3 years. And with that, so many businesses go. Our opinion would always be to try and see how to scale profitably and to solve for real world problems. I don't think, pivots are great. We all need pivots over time because of such fast changing, economics and landscape. But let's only pivot when the need is and when we feel that that's where the consumer is going. So that would be, one of it. I would always continue to talk about retention being far more useful. There is top of the funnel, new customer acquisition. It's all absolutely required. There's no doubt about it. But for a lot of brands that we see over time, about 40% of the returning visitors contribute to nearly 75 to 80% of the business. And that would be a good balance. The only challenge is you really need to hit scale, and that's where you start getting a lot more new, but that's where the economics goes all awry. I think every business or brand has its own time when it should scale basis where it is. So that would be something that we would like to talk about. As GreenHonchos, we started very humble beginnings, one small yellow color room, one dining table on rent, 3 of us that were friends really from the previous company. We didn't believe what we were trying to do, we just believed each other. And then, one of our CTO today is here 7 years into the company, Prakash. He has a session on later today in terms of solving for complex problems, because the India ecosystem is becoming more and more complex in its systems. When he came to interview to us from Wipro, he thought he entered the wrong room. And then I had to run out and say, no, this is the company. And we are happy that 7 years later, it worked out fine. Today, we power about 150 brands, all mid-market brands, primarily fashion, footwear, apparel, lifestyle accessories, a lot more new age categories now, food and beverage, FMCG, consumer packaged goods, beauty and personal care. It's a great time. The consumer wants content to be served. Diversification of channels, extremely critical. We believe that there are n number of sources of new customer acquisition and traffic that are lying out there, apart from Meta and Google, that really is a bit of a black box or more. I think folks that run D2C businesses would agree with that. The tech stack is the other thing. The tech stack is getting complicated, great tech all over, but when you put all those pieces together onto one consumer experience journey, it ends up being a bit of a mangled mess. Demystify that, get a good framework in place. That would be my 10 minutes. I've got 40 seconds going. I'd like to leave that for you. You can meet me here. We are around for the next couple of days. I'd love to have some coffee with you guys. Thanks so much.